Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Bob's Woodshop. We're going to do something special today. We're going to show you my magic act. So I'm going to take this nice little big piece of spalted maple, right, and I'm going to turn it into one of these. This is a spalted maple tilt top table. And it goes like this. And it's very attractive. This is called the bird cage. In here, there's a locking mechanism here. I made a little pin for this. And yeah, it's a nice project. So why don't you hang around, sit back, relax, and I'll show you how I built this. Okay, my buddy Stu Bauer gave me this beautiful piece of spalted maple. Excited about making this project. Love spalted maple. So let's start milling this up. So this is about a 2-inch thick piece of spalted maple. It's about 11 inches in diameter, and I can actually get probably 2 of these tables out of here, but I'm just going to take you through the milling process, marking out the major components. I need enough to make the top, the round top, and also enough to make the legs. So I'm going to be doing that first. So I'm going to take it over to the chop box. This is my Bosch glide saw. And I'm going to be doing a little bit of cutting the length here. So if you're looking for a chop box, I'd highly recommend one of these Bosch glide saws. They're fantastic. This is a 12-inch blade that you can see there, and makes quick work out of this real thick maple. Really nice tool to have in your shop. Great thing about these types of saws is you push the blade away from you, versus with an old style radio arm saw, you're pulling the blade towards you, which I was never a big fan of. You can see that spalting in the wood there. That's the main reason I picked the spalted maple for this project. It's just beautiful. Here I gotta get ready. I'm going to be cutting the waste off one side of this piece of wood. This is a 3 horsepower grizzly table saw I'm using, and this also makes quick work of getting through this thick maple. Of course, using a table saw, any power tools, always use your eye protection. This is not a critical dimension. I'm just cutting off the wane off the side of the board there. You can see no problem at all. So what I'm doing here is a process called resawing, and this is actually 4x speed. This piece of wood's probably about 9 inches in width right now, and I'm just cutting it right down the center in order to do what's called a book match. And I'm actually going to make 2 of these, one for the legs and one for the tabletop itself. But when you see a pattern like that, that's called a book match. From there, I'm going to take it over to the outfeed table on the table saw, and I'm going to be gluing the 2 pieces together. And again, it's actually 4 pieces because I glued this up for both the top and for the legs. This particular piece I'm ending up using on the legs. So this is an easy glue up process. This whole process and project took about 10 days on and off. Okay, here I'm starting to doing the cuts for the center column. So the column is ended up being around 2.5 inches in diameter, and I didn't have enough thickness on the wood to make that out of one solid piece, so I ended up having to cut a couple pieces like this and then glue them together, which you really can't tell in the final project. Here I'm using my old knife here in order to clean off the glue on my clamps, and yeah, I'm just going through and putting plenty of glue on there in order to make that the column. So part of the gluing up process is waiting overnight for it to dry. Here I'm using a little spray adhesive in order to put the pattern for the legs on. So once I do this, I'm going to let that dry, then I'm going to cut this out on the bandsaw and then use that as the template for the 3 legs that need to be cut. Here's what the glue up process looks like on the column. And typically what I'll do, I'll wait for that glue to gel up a little bit, wait about an hour or so, and then scrape the most of that off. Here I'm starting in on the column, and this is just getting it round. This is a lot of fun. This particular clip and the next couple ones on the column, I'm going to do it either 8x speed or 20x speed. You notice on the right here, my headstock is moving because I didn't tighten it down. So after I figured that, I was able to get back into turning. I'm just using a big spindle roughing gouge as part of the process. What I'm doing now is getting the diameter for the bottom where the legs are going to be. Got 3 legs. The legs are attached with sliding dovetails, which I'm going to get into here shortly. This is the sliding dovetail jig fixture, and this enables me to hold my router in the correct position in order to cut the dovetails. So the spindle and the headstock is locked right now, and what I'm doing is just flattening off the 3 different sides. So I got to hold the spindle at 0, then rotate it to 120, then rotate it again to 240, and that'll give me the 3 flat surfaces that I need. So this is an old style trick and makes it much easier than trying to cut all this out by hand. Here's the dovetail bit in there, and again, after I made those 3 flats, I got to go in with a dovetail bit. Some people will use a straight bit here to hog out the majority of this. I went right in with the dovetail bit, and it vibrated a little bit, but it worked perfectly okay. So that's the first one. Like I said, I got a little bit of vibration, maybe a little bit of chatter in that, but it looks pretty good. Here I'm looking at the very small window in the headstock to see the indexing wheel. One thing I don't like about the Nova Galaxy lathe is that viewing window is only about a ½ inch in diameter. We could have made it much bigger. And here I'm going to go and make the second sliding dovetail. This is a very strong joint. There's different ways to attach the leg. Now that I've got the female dovetails cut in, I'm going to finish off the rest of the spindle and or column, whatever you want to call it. Off to my left, your right, I'm going over to the original table that I built 45 years ago, and just copying the different widths and lengths of each one of these beads and coves, using a variety of tools, including spindle gouges and Benjamin Best beading tool, calipers, and a ruler. I'm just duplicating my original. Just like anything else, you got to practice it. This is not easy to do. I've been turning for quite a long time, and I still. Okay, so after sanding this up to 320, I'm just doing a inspection. I'm liking what I'm seeing, and I think this came out great. A lot of milling. It's interesting. Some do a little flat work on the right hand side here at the bottom, and certainly got to do a lot of turning, as you just saw. So I like the female dovetail there, that's nice and straight. And here's the original one that I made in college. And I don't believe I did that in college where I put that female dovetail and male dovetail. I think I used dowels. So here I'm doing the top, and I've got this in 8x speed. And this is that book match piece that I was telling you about. And it came out nice using mainly bowl gouges to do this, and I'm just sanding it up and getting this up to 320 also. Here's the bottom of the bird cage on the original one, and I got to make 4 of these little spindles plus that top and bottom plate. So I'm starting with the top and bottom plate, to squaring off one end and measuring off the length. I've got a little piece of wood there to help me measure that length, and I have to make 2 of these pieces. For some reason I didn't put a stop block on there to help me out with that, but it all worked out anyway. So here I'm going over to the drill press to drill 8 holes. I got the 2 plates and I need 4 holes that are 1/2 inch in diameter. So I've got to drill those. Sorry, bad camera angle, you can't see the action right there. And once I'm done that, I got to go over to the lathe and make those 4 spindles. So I'm doing this in 8x speed, and I'm using the parting tool on both sides of a bead, right there and there. And I'm using the beading tool, and then I'm going to come in with my Carter and Son spindle gouge and make that bead cove combination there. So I made one of these as a practice, and then I made 4 more. I did the practice just to figure out exactly what tools I wanted to use in order to make these 4 shapes. It's a nice little exercise in making duplicates. I also needed a 1-inch hole at the center of the bottom plate so that the stem could go through that. It'd be real nice if I tighten up the drill bit, and that's what I'm doing now, tightening up the drill bit so the bit doesn't back up on me. Okay, back to drilling. Now that I got my drill bit nice and tight, and here I'm just cutting off the very top of the column with a spindle, and yeah, it's coming together. So here's what the bird cage in the top looks like. I'm continually looking to make sure everything's coming along well. And now, got to start on the legs. So I showed earlier that I spray adhesive the template onto the piece of MDF there. Now I'm going to trace that onto the piece of spalted maple. Again, I remember at the beginning I glued up 2 pieces. One of them was for the top and one of them was for the legs. Okay, so I've already cut a sample on the top of that board on my right hand there. And in order to cut the male portion of the sliding dovetail, you have to run it across the router table. And you make a couple practice cuts in order to make sure you get a nice tight fit. So this was my test piece. And once I was satisfied with that, then I went through back over to the chop box and put the template against there and ran 45s on here. It's a lot easier to cut those 45s first and then run it across the dovetail bit. So again, this is my practice test piece. So putting it in there, and a little loose, but it worked fine. So okay with that. So that's my test piece. And now here I'm, again, what I was saying, I got to cut the two pieces, making sure that I got those 245s in there accurately, and that'll create the 90-degree angle that I need from the column to the floor. So just test fitting, making sure the length is okay, and I'm making that cut on the right spot. And you can see I've got a stop block on the left-hand side of the fence there. Again, much easier to make these 45s now. And make those couple cuts. You'll notice I've got a blue shop apron on. This is very handy when you're turning because the dust goes all over you. If I had just a regular shop apron, it would get behind the apron and in the pocket of the apron and things like that. So many times you'll see me with this blue apron, which gives me a full torso coverage. And once I'm happy with one, I can do the others. And here I'm cutting my sample piece. I didn't really need that dovetail right there. The dovetail has to go on the angled piece. Okay, from there I went down to my basement shop. This is where I keep my metal shop, and I also have a small bandsaw there. My bigger bandsaw in the garage is set up with a resaw blade right now, so here I'm just using a 3/8 inch bandsaw blade in order to get the curves on these table legs. Overall, each one of those legs took about 3 minutes to make. Ta-da! And here's the first dry fit. I'm liking what I'm seeing. It is really sharp. So I certainly got to knock off those corners. Had to do a bunch of sanding on the legs there. And yeah, look at that, man. It's coming good. Coming along very well. You can see some of a little bit of loose joinery in those legs, but I was able to tighten them up when I glued it. And here's a side-by-side comparison. The new one turned out about an inch taller than the old one. But yeah, I'm really glad I started this project. From there, I had to make a little collar that goes at the bottom of the bird cage, which holds the key. So at first what I did, I just took this square piece and ran a couple saw blades through it in order to make that dado. And then, turn it from there. I think overall the total project has 16 pieces. So it was a fun little exercise in milling a variety of round and flat work pieces. So it was fun. So here I'm actually cutting an end grain, and so it's I'm getting a lot of noise on here. So this is a little bit more at 8x speed, and the reason I put it in this orientation is so that it would be nice and strong and not snap. And I made this washer nice and thick, again, for strength purposes. It's about twice as thick as the original one, but with a big groove in the middle of it. Yeah, you could actually kind of snap it in half, and I didn't want that to be able to be a possibility. And here, just parting it off and drilling the hole. And again, I'm getting some ka-chunk in here. So here's just an inspection of the individual parts. Again, this is a great project because it's got so many parts and they all come together very well. So I'm just kind of surveying the work at this point in time, and yeah, I like what I see. I like that book match it's on there. Here's the first leg glue up. I'm going to do these one at a time. I got that on and kept that there for about 20 minutes, and then I put the second one on, and then I had to wait overnight until I took these two clamps off in order to put the third one on. So yeah, there it is. It's coming. As you can see the bird cage, and you see the washer there at the bottom of the bird cage, and there's a little key that holds it all together. There's a little bit of video on it. The elevation from the top to the bottom. It's like, wow, what a great design. I would say this is an intermediate project. Here I'm getting ready to do the finish. Again, I'm in my basement now, and I'm putting a waterlox finish on it. And I experimented with this scrap piece that I had, and I was also experimenting using my branding iron. You see underneath my left hand. And I've used waterlox on several projects now, and I really like the way it looks. And it's a really easy finish to apply. You rub it on, wait 5 minutes, and then rub it all off. So here I just got to take it apart. This entire process of finishing maybe took 15 minutes. I'm just brushing it on. I'm not going to show you the entire finishing process. You kind of get the idea of what I'm doing here. Again, with a lot of these videos, what I'm doing, I'm not giving the entire process. I'm just giving you the highlights to keep the video moving along. I got a bit of a smile on my face there, and it's like, kind of just happy with the way the project's coming out. So when applying waterlox, what they recommend is applying it liberally and letting it dry it for at least 24 hours. And then you can even sand in between coats, and that helps a lot. And waterlox is a tung oil type of finish. And if you put 2 or 3 coats on, it really shines up nice, which you'll see shortly. Now again, just you can brush it on, or you can put it on with a rag. And I mentioned before my branding iron. You can see on the bottom right-hand side, I was using my branding iron, and I put my name and my logo underneath the top. It's always nice to have your maker's mark on your project, so in 200 years, when someone looks at it, and they can say, well, I wonder who the heck Bob Amarant was. Another key thing when you're applying tung oil finish, you've really got to pay attention to rub off the excess oil, otherwise it gets sticky the next day. So here's what it's looking like. This has 2 coats on it, and it builds a nice gloss when you do this. One of the reasons I put on tung oil finish, because it is winter time, and spraying lacquer in cold temperatures is not a good thing. I really like lacquer also as a finish, but with these weather conditions, I'm picking this tung oil finish, which is a very attractive finish. There's the key. Here's the little locking device. I actually turned that little piece of metal pin on my metal lathe that's in the basement, and that prevents the tabletop from flipping up if you put something heavy or a book, something like that, on there. So that's the locking device. So let's bring it in the house, put it next to my lazy boy. And there's the remote, and I could put a cup of coffee there, or a cup of tea, whatever I want. And I like the way it came out. I hope you did too. Hope you like the build process. Hope you like the project. So hey, you guys know the drill. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Always be careful in your shop. You know what Norm Abrams says, wear your safety glasses out there. So until next time, I'll see you on another episode of Bob's Woodshop. Thanks for tuning in today. See you on the next project. Bye-bye.